Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be going over what I read over January and February. This is my first video on my reading and I wanted to get dense over the past 2 months. I'll go over what I rated the book, which is 1 to 5 stars, give a spoiler-free review, and then go into depth of what I thought about the book, which will have a spoiler warning on the chapter for the entire duration of that section. Let's go ahead and get started with January. I've read 12 books for the month and no DNFs. To start off the year, we have a podcast. To let you guys know, I listen to Creepcast with my husband. He absolutely loves the podcast so much that he's fully caught up to their latest episodes. Meanwhile, I like to listen with him beside me. So yes, I do count the stories they read as audiobooks and count it towards my reading goal. It's my reading perspective and choice. Anyway, we listen to Stolen Sons, which... yeah, it's bad. Like, offensively bad. To go ahead and give a spoiler-free review, the story is about a couple that goes up to a cabin in the mountains during a snowstorm for a getaway and end up with a paranormal stalking experience. It's offensive to Native Americans and just not a good book to read unless you want to read the same paranormal experience, no differences between them. Now on to the spoiler warning. This story is just terrible to listen to, and honestly, I tried to read the publication of the story, but the male lead was just honestly rude to his wife. Made a joke and comment about her eating that just made me close the book, but everything stayed the same with the original story, but just added really nothing new at the same time. I felt the same way that Gab Smulders did with her video in the book, but so much more on how the Native Americans were treated like nothing in the story, and trying to make a monster based off their legends with no sense to make of it. I do try to match scores with my husband for when he listened to it. He liked it until he asked about the monster to me, which then bumped down the score for him. 2.75 stars. Then we listened to It Breeds, It Bleeds, It Breeds. A honest, very cool story to listen to. If not, most of all of their stories on Creepcast are way too short to not spoil the summary, so I'm just gonna give a trigger warning because it's okay to look at trigger warnings and decide not to go with that content. Heavy trigger warning on body horror. I do like body horror, especially if it has something to be connected with how it relates to real life illnesses or comparing it to how certain people go through with their life. Most of the time it is about women. 3.5 stars. Totally go listen or read the story. My job is watching a woman trapped in a room. Honestly, I forget that no sleep or creepypastas are bad most of the time until I listen to one. The spoiler-free is literally the title. It's just a whole bunch of nothing, no personalities or any good writing. Video was a blast though. 1 star. Tales from the Gas Station. I did read the publication first before listening to the original story, and yeah, there's something you guys need to know about me. I'm not that big of a fan of short stories or anthologies. Don't look at that. He is the only exception. I just couldn't get into the wacky random comedy that the whole series provides, even though I was working at a gas station at that time. But I do have to say that the writing was a little bit better in the publication version. There is 4 books to this series if you want to get into it. Give it a shot. 3 stars. Russian Sleep Experiment. Do I even need to say anything about this story? I was a teenager when creepypastas were at their peak. This story was regarded as the best of the best. Again, too short of a story to give a spoiler-free review. The writing is definitely of its time, and it's a really short story to have any development. Just gonna say, if you like conspiracy theories against the government or hidden experiments, then you will love this one. 3 stars. My husband has taken our roleplay too far. Me and my husband kinda liked this story. No spoiler free, since it's short. Definitely give it a read or listen to, especially if you like Reddit posts or Twitter posts that have a second person coming in to provide their point of view in the midst of the drama. It's a really good mystery with a plot twist that makes you think, are you fucking sure? My dog was missing for 3 days. If you're a dog lover, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but sometimes it's okay to put on the rose-colored glasses and pretend what happens in the story is just a joke on the male lead, because honestly, fuck this dude. He does not deserve any sort of dog. When my husband told me about this story, I didn't want to think about the dog being dead, so I told my husband that the dog met this creature, and told the creature my owner didn't want to come looking for me. He's really fucking shitty. And the creature responds, "So you want to play a prank?" Honestly, makes this story funnier and a little bit better with that angle. 2.5 stars. And for the last podcast story, Jeff the Killer. Do I even need to say anything about the story? Everybody and their ex-boyfriends know about this story and this character. The video with this story is one of their best from their early start to their podcast, so it's a terrific start if you don't know where to start listening to them. Just know this story is absolutely aged like milk. 1.5 stars. Now on to novels, starting with an archive of romance. This is such a beautiful book and a nice novella companion to the study in drowning duology. It's made like a scrapbook with exempts of what the characters look like and the quotes of the books of the duology mainly talks about, like you're reading that fictional book. It does give like a little epilogue of what happens to Effie and Preston after everything is over. So it's a 4.25 for me. Umineko, Episode 8, Twilight of the Golden Witch, Volume 3. I will make an Umineko video since this is the last video of this series. I will say that I love this story and everything around it. I wish they could make these in print again because Jesus Christ, getting a copy of any volume is $50 at least. 4.75. Will my cat eat my eyeballs? I watched Caitlin Downery on YouTube before deciding to read her 3 nonfiction books. I am happy that I did. I did read her From Here to Eternity book first, which made me excited to read the rest of her well-written and very well-researched books. Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs is written as children asking Caitlin on death-related questions and reassuring them to the best of her ability that death is natural and it's okay to not be scared of it. It does have illustrations from Deanne Ruse, which are nice and cute. 4.25. Clytemnestra. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. I grew up on Greek mythology. I was a nerd about that shit, in contrast of my husband being into Egyptian mythology. I have been in the rabbit hole of retellings or just telling the story in the modern writing of famous myths during last year, and I gave this one a try. I did know the important part and point of her story, but I didn't really know her as a person. This novel was okay, if not a little good. I didn't love it or hate it. The writing was good, but I do wish it was solely about Clytemnestra and not about her cousin or second daughter. I do get to the point of how women were treated during this time and still are, but I would read a book about Helen of Troy herself or know about Electra and her with her own novel. I did like the writing, even though there were points that dragged on, especially the build-up to the final act. I didn't hate this book. It was just okay, maybe a little good. 3.5 stars. And the final book I read for this month, Half His Age. I will make a video about this book in comparison to My Dark Vanessa, because I do have a lot to say about this book that I feel is disagreed with the takes I've heard online. Spoiler-free summary, it is about a teenager that gets into a relationship with her high school teacher and how that is seen through the modern teenager's eyes. I have read Jeanette McCurdy's autobiography and I loved it. And I also watched her growing up with iCarly. And I wholeheartedly bought this copy of her newest book because I trusted her so much into her transition into fiction. I am happy that I did. I loved this book and it is my book of the month. I wish there was more pages, honestly, and the way the ending was written was a little rushed, but honestly, I felt like that worked for the overall message and theme of the story. 4.75 stars. Now on to February, which was a short month of 4 books. I was really busy with work at this time, so I could barely read anything. Endless Anger. I tried to read Savar Miller 2 times before this book with her previous series, but I really could not vibe with her writing, nor her first book, Promises and Pomegranates. But when I heard she was making a sequel series with the children to the couple from her first book, look, I really liked the sprayed edges and the art. I gave in to the pretty. I did like this book enough to give it 4 stars. The spoiler-free summary is about 2 college students attending to a secret Ivy League college that has ties and history to the supposed occult, and they must survive to find out. Honestly, there are moments that I was tired of the point of views changing back and forth just to relay the same information, and the characters recapping of what just happened not even a chapter ago. Notable quotes that I marked were the male lead was talking about his parents and aunts that made a reasoning why they were no contact with their own parents. As it says, Mom's parents are a particular sore subject. Not even my aunts will talk about them, which makes it as though they never even existed. Yeah, I wonder if it was his grandmother having sex with his dad before his parents even got together? No reason for that. When the male lead was talking to his older sister about how she does not want him to go to the school, for no particular reason, he rightfully says they have connections to shut down that school. Shutting the place down would have erased all I've been. It would leave a ton of students displaced and ruin a decent institution being corrupted by a secret few. Totally dismantling it does no good. Yes, the school that is heavily applied to be covering up rapes and murders for decades, with the majority, if not all of the student body being rich nepo babies, is still a decent institution. When the female lead is at a party with her friend, and that friend is getting another beer, and quote-unquote, finds someone's mouth to ride, end quote, her other friend replies with, "Don't you mean dick?" That other friend replies, "In this economy, yeah, right." Honestly, same. Making a reference to Slenderman legs. The male lead saying, "Still, I didn't come into this prepared. I've watched porn. I've practiced. I fought my hand raw some nights to build up stamina." I have no words for this. Before I quote this next scene, I have to mention sometimes I hate in particular romance books with sex scenes that they mention either being on the pill and not using a condom, or just not doing anything to practice safe sex on both sides. I know it's fiction, but Jesus, it gets annoying. This is after the leads have sex and she mentions about, let's just not use a condom at all, and that she's on the pill. I know how shit you are at remembering to take your pills. On the pill, for you means you probably have a half-used pack in your bag. Jesus Christ, I am happy this is a smart lead. Then later in the book, in response to that, "Please, just this once, I'll take a plan B or something after." And heavy trigger warning on rape. There is scenes of a female and a male either getting sexually assaulted, or you hear and see the aftermath. But I did like the dark academia setting, and the character development was good. Also, because it's a romance book, yes, the set scenes were written very well. 4 stars. Deepwood, or the Lost Town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania. I will make a hot take in this video. I am allowed to have one per video. I hate C.K. Walker. I know some people will agree with me on her Borrasca story, which was the worst story, honestly, I ever listened to. I was into creepypastas for like 3 years. I never went back because it just wasn't good stories anymore, and the Slender Man stabbing made it worse to even try to come back. So Deepwood honestly was super forgettable and just poorly written. It's about an agent evil that makes people disappear and makes other people forget about them, and the characters are so boring. The only reason you should ever touch this story is for the Creedcast episode. 2 stars. Mate. I am not Omega First girly, nor am I Ali Hazelwood girly, but sometimes she writes really good paranormal romances. I feel like that is a hot take. I'm only gonna have one in this video. Anyway, Mate is a sequel to Bride, which doesn't really need to be read after Bride, but if you just don't want to. But to understand a little bit of the world building, then yeah, go read Bride first. But it follows Serena being a spoiler for Bride. hybrid werewolf that gets into a romance with a fellow werewolf. It's as good as Bride. Some scenes were a little too long for my liking, but some were still good, and the set scenes were well written for werewolves. Not a heavy note on nodding like the last. But hey, there's a reason people say Ali Hazelwood made them go read a Megaverse. Notable quotes being, "I remain tragically unfucked. I liked you better when you were a virgin." Referencing the Hades and Persephone myth with, "This is not Hades, I won't serve you pomegranates." And then when children are bullying another child, the female lead with her adopted sister have this conversation. "Those I know. Can you believe that Juno won't let me suck their fucking pets dry in front of their fucking useless eyes? Jesus Christ. Some women are fucking terrible." And for the last book of February and this video, Nightshade. I went back to dark academia romance books because of Endless Hunger, and it was good. The summary is about a girl that goes to this super dark and mysterious school that has something to do with her parents' death, and she needs to solve the mystery, but also fall in love with the son of the man who had supposedly had a hand in her parents' death. The writing was good. The characters were, good. The romance was nice. The reasoning why I'm saying this is because of the stupid trope of, spoiler warning, the third act breakup. I have been annoyed to death from a young age of watching rom-coms to just normal romance movies by this trope. I like romances that are healthy. Everyone is consenting. Main couple will talk to each other about their problems. Don't take a break, or even break up. I know that some people will say this is a YA novel, so of course they act like teenagers, and teenagers will do that. The problem is that this trope happens at, another spoiler warning, the end, and it is the cliffhanger. For that reason, I have not gotten a physical copy until I will read the sequel, which is coming out next month on the 28th. If that sequel does not reach the 4-star rating for this book, then it is the death of me. And for the book of the month for February, it's a tie with Endless Anger and May. That is all I have for today and for this video. I hope you guys will like, share, and subscribe for the videos coming your way. Have a good morning, day, or night.